All right, so today we're doing section, excuse me, 412, intro to higher degree polynomial functions. So basically, the main idea of today is going to be to try to, I guess, look at a graph and figure out what kind of function it came from, okay? And the graph can look really weird. It can have a bunch of turns, ups and downs and stuff like that. And we should be able to figure out what kind of function it came from, okay? That's going to be our goal. So it can be a difficult looking graph, but it shouldn't be hard for us to figure it out. But we're going to start off by doing some of the minor things first, okay? Let's talk about what we call something with a certain number of terms. So I'm going to put right here number of terms. Okay. Now, if it only has, so when we're doing number of terms, if it only has one term, we call it a monomial. Okay, now you might be saying, well, I've learned this before. I just want to repeat it because there's going to be questions like this asking you about like what would you call the following. So it might be a monomial, quadrinomial, right? So, sorry, not quadrinomial, polynomial, etc. So two terms. This is binomial. Okay, three terms. This is a trinomial. So all this stuff we've already kind of talked about. Okay, and once you go to four or more terms, so four plus, I guess you could say, we'll call these polynomials. Poly means many. Okay, so four or more, we're going to call them polynomials. So that's pretty easy, right? So for example, for the monomial, it might just be something like this, 2a squared. Okay, a binomial might be like a negative x squared minus 3x. That's a binomial. It's two terms, right? Trinomial, well, you guys have seen these things, right? Like we had to factor them before, but there you go. There's a trinomial. And a polynomial just needs four or more things, right? So, I mean, you can create your own, but 2w plus 3a minus 6w squared plus 5. That's four terms. So that's more than three. So anything more than three is going to be called a polynomial. Okay? So whenever they ask you what kind of, how do they list it here? How many number of terms does it have? You're going to have to say it's a monomial, binomial, trinomial, or polynomial. Okay? Any questions on that one? So like I said, it kind of starts pretty easy. Continuing still on the easy portion of it, the degree of a function. So the degree of a function. Now the degree is the highest power of a function. So let me put that right here. Highest power of a function. So you're going to look at the equation that we write down and you're going to look for the highest possible power that's there. Maybe it's a power of 2, maybe it's a power of 3, a 5, or maybe it's just a first power. Okay? So if the highest degree is a 1, so I'm going to put right here, first power. If it's a 1, so like x to the first, right? So we can do like 2x plus 3. The highest power there is a 1 because the power on the x is going to be a value of 1. We don't write it because it's a 1. Okay? So if the highest degree is a 1, then we're going to call it linear. Oops, sorry. We're going to call it linear. L-I-N-E-A-R. Okay, linear. I don't know if you can see it, but the word there, line, in the very beginning, that linear functions are lines. Okay, so it's actually right there, line. Okay, so a first power results in a linear function. Okay, a second power. So maybe something that looks like this, x squared plus 3x. Notice the power that's highest is an x squared, right? This is called a quadratic. Okay, this is a quadratic. All right, we're going to go up to 5 because I noticed in the homework they mentioned quintic. So we're going to go up to 5. So third power. So, negative x cubed plus 3x plus 1. You can see the highest power is a 3, right? X to the third. So if you get to a third power, those are called cubic. Now the next two are rare, but on homework we make sure they show up, right? But the next two are rare. Usually we do first degree, second degree, third degree, so linear, quadratic, cubic. In this homework we're going to make sure we go fourth and fifth, just because we got to test you on other things. But fourth power. So, I don't know, 3x to the fourth minus 4x plus 2 is just the random function. But you can see the highest power is a power of 4. Okay, these are called quartic. Quartic. And by the way, the number of the power, the fourth power, doesn't mean there has to be like 5 terms or anything. I mean, it can be just like a 6x to the fifth. I'll do that right now for a fifth power. They don't always have to be like really long functions. I mean, there's one. And this is called a quintic. Okay? Quintic. So far, what we've gone over is monomials, binomials, trinomials, polynomials, right? Number of terms that you're given. So if you look at the first power one in blue, you would say that's a binomial, okay? So a linear binomial. That's what I would call it. Okay, this right here, linear binomial, because it's 2 terms and it's a linear function. Okay, the second power one, I will call it a quadratic binomial, because it's 2 terms, right? X squared plus 3x, 2 terms, and it's a quadratic function. So it's quadratic binomial. Okay. The third power, I would call it a cubic what? Trinomial. It's 3 terms, right? Cubic trinomial. Okay. The fourth power, I would call it a quartic. How many terms? 3. So a quartic trinomial, right? And the fifth one would be a quintic monomial, right? 1 term only. So you're going to have questions like that on your homework. Okay, the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, there's 6 of them like this. So they're not like terrible to do, but you do have to kind of notice, okay, this is a quadratic function. It has 3 terms, a quadratic trinomial. This is a 5th degree function with 2 terms, so quintic binomial, right? You just have to look at this stuff that I just wrote down, and that's going to give you basically what you need, okay? So if you see a question like this, they're going to say name each polynomial by degree and number of terms. So you're going to have 6 questions that look like this with that instruction. Name each polynomial by degree and number of terms. And I'll just write a couple here. So do me a favor. Take a quick minute. Try to get the answers for A and B, and then right now I'll show you what you should be writing down. All right, so here are the solutions that you guys were supposed to get. Okay, for part A, you should have noticed that the highest degree was a 3, so you're going to say it was cubic, and it was 2 terms, so you're going to say binomial. Okay, for part B, you're going to notice that the highest power was a 2, or the only power given was a 2, so you're going to call it a quadratic, and then on the number of terms, it's only 1, so it's a monomial. Okay, anybody have questions on that? All right, so maximum number of turns. So the maximum number of terms for a function. So if I were to give you like a big old equation, how would you know how many times it's going to change directions from going up to down to back up to down to back up to down? Okay, how do you know just by looking at the equation how many times it's going to turn? It's actually pretty easy. It's your degree minus 1. That equals to the maximum number. Okay, so it's just your degree minus 1. So you have to be able to identify the degree, which we were just talking about right now. So your degree minus 1. So let me give you example number 2, and then we'll move on to the more messy portion of the lesson. Okay, so example number 2, write the maximum number of turns. Let me write one more here for you guys. So go ahead and write those down. Remember, your formula, if you want to call it that, is your degree minus 1. Okay, your degree minus 1. So how many turns is part A going to have? 3, right? Because what's my highest power on part A? 4. And my formula says take your degree, which is the highest power, minus 1. So 4 minus 1 is 3. So it's going to have 3 turns. Whoops. 3 turns. And I'm just going to put right here max. It could have less, but we're talking about the maximum number of turns. Okay? So what about part B? 1 turn only, right? Just 1 turn. I'm having a hard time spelling the word turn. 1 turn maximum. Okay? Now, can anybody tell me part A, what would I call it if I wanted to know its name, like what we just did in the previous ones, by the degree and the number of terms? What would I call part A? A what? It is a polynomial, but is it linear, quadratic, cubic, quartic, or quintic? Quartic, right? It's a quartic polynomial. What about part B? Binomial is correct, but not cubic. Quadratic, right? Power of 2 is the highest, so it's quadratic binomial, okay? So, all right, well, was that hard to figure out the number of turns? No, right? It's just subtracting 1 from the highest power, and that's it. All right, so any questions up till now? Because right now we're going to kind of get into the part where you guys are going to have to reference your notes a lot. You guys okay? All right. So when it comes to sketching, okay, so they're going to ask you to identify which sketches match the function. So sketching polynomials. All right, so here are the notes you guys are going to have to know when we do this, okay? So there's two parts, but those two parts have two subparts in it. But it's not too complicated. I'm going to try to write it as clean as possible, okay? If your degree is even, in other words, if your highest power is even. So if your degree is even and A is positive. Now, if you're wondering what A is, I'll tell you right now, okay? Because you're supposed to already remember about your coefficients, but right now I'll mention it. And A is positive. All right. So what do we mean by A being positive? Well, I'm going to write it right next to where it says sketching polynomials, okay? A function is normally written maybe something like this. Ax to the n plus bx to the n minus 1 plus cx to the n minus 2, etc. Okay? This is just a generic form of writing it. But what you should notice is the a term is the number right in front of the highest degree. Okay? The a term is the number right in front of your highest degree. So if your highest degree happens to be a 3, that's great. Look at the coefficient. That's what it's called, right? This is called our coefficient. Like I said, I know you guys have probably learned this terminology before, so I'm just kind of reviewing it, but it's called your coefficient, okay? And since it's actually in front of the highest degree, it's actually called your leading coefficient, but we'll just stick with coefficient for now, okay? So if your degree is even, so if it's a power of 2, a power of 4, a power of 6, 8, 10, 12, etc., and A is positive, then you're going to write, well, not that you're going to write the following, but the graph is going to have the following behavior. It rises to the left and rises to the right. In other words, the graph might look something like this. Or even, bless you, something like this. Okay, it can be anything, but notice how it's going up to the left and up to the right. Okay? So it's going up and up. So if A is positive, it's going to rise to the left and rise to the right. And again, I just gave you two little small pictures of what it could look like. If A is negative, so A is negative, then it's going to fall to the left and fall to the right. So the graph may look like this. So I guess one easy thing, I don't want to say easy, but one thing that you can kind of remember, if it's even, it either goes up, up, or down, down. Okay? It goes up, up if A is positive. It goes down, down if A is negative. So usually the even degree is easier because it goes either both up or both down. okay? Just depends on your A term. Now, that's the first part. The second part is what happens if your degree is odd, okay? What happens if your degree is odd? So, if your degree is odd, and, all right, so if your degree is odd, and we're going to have the same thing, A is positive, A is negative. It's going to have a different behavior. Like I told you guys, this is kind of a difficult lesson once we get to this point, so I do apologize. The lesson is going to be a little bit on the longer side, okay? Usually don't like them to be too long, but we're already approaching 21 minutes, and we're getting into the meat of it right now. So, again, sometimes it happens. All right, so if your degree is odd and A is positive. So if your degree is odd and your A is positive, then your function is going to fall to the left and rise to the right. It falls to the left, rises to the right. So it might look something like this. Okay, those are some examples of it. So if A is positive, it's going to fall to the left, rises to the right. Now, if you're getting a little scared because you're looking at that weird function over there and you're like, I've never graphed anything like that, you're not going to really have to graph it. You just got to know what it looks like, okay? And if you understand what it looks like, then you should be okay, all right? You don't have to actually graph it. They're going to graph them for you. You just got to pick the right one. Now, if A is negative, it's going to rise to the left, so it rises to the left, and it falls to the right. So it's kind of like just flipping over what I just drew, kind of. It'll look something like this. Okay. So that would be the behavior of those graphs. So right now we're going to do about 4 of your homework problems, okay? And they're going to be pretty easy, but you need to keep this list, what I just gave you, in front of you so that you can make the right decision as to what to write, okay? So make sure that you guys keep this list very visible to you. This is example number, let me check, number 3. So here we go. The instructions they're going to give you is to describe the end behavior. Describe the end behavior. In other words, what does it do as it's going left and right? Okay? Describe the end behavior. So part A, here's a function. Like I said, this is coming right from your homework here. So I'm going to need your help with this because I don't have the list available up there to show you as we do this. So you're going to have to look at your list. So the way you're supposed to do these problems when you describe end behavior, ask yourself first, is my degree even or odd? Odd. What's my degree? It's a 5, right? 5x to the 5th power. So it's odd. So that means that now all I have to do is figure out if A is positive or negative. Okay, now I'm going to write down a couple notes for you guys here. I'm going to write degree is odd. You don't have to write that down if you don't want to. I'm just going to do it just so you can see. And is my A positive or negative? Negative, right? Minus 5. It's the number in front of that highest degree. So A is negative. So if my degree is odd, but A is negative, what is it supposed to do? Well, to the left it goes which way? Up or down? It falls to the left, rise to the right? Yeah, A is negative, and and the degree is odd. Yeah, it's gonna rises to the, unless I wrote it wrong, I don't think I did. Rises to the left, falls to the right. And that's all you have to do. Just identify it, okay? Just identify it. So it rises to the left, it falls to the right. All right, let's do one more, or maybe even two more, but let's do this one. X to the fourth minus 2x squared minus 2x minus 1. Okay, so f of x is x to the fourth minus 2x squared minus 2x minus 1. What's my degree? Is 4, right? So degree is, well, I don't even want to say 4. I want to say even, right? It is 4. I'm going to say that it's even. And A is positive or negative? Remember, A is right here. It's a positive 1, right? There's nothing there. It's a positive 1. So I'm going to write A is positive. So now I'm going to look at my list. If my degree is even and my A is positive, with your hands, do me a favor. What is it going to look like? Is it going to be like this or like this? Which way is it looking? All right, so some of you guys are, yeah, nobody's done the wrong thing, so good. Yeah, it's up, up, right? It's up, up. If it's positive, it's going to be up, up. If A is negative, it's going to be down, down. Okay? So we're going to write down rises to the left, rises to the right. Does this make sense? I mean, it's just based on the highest power and your A term, okay? And that's all. And then you're just going to look at a list and say, okay, this fits right here, and write down what it tells you. All right? So maybe I won't do the extra one. We'll leave that one for you guys. All right. So the last two problems, let me bring them in because I got to actually import these things. But let me put right here example number 4. All right, and let me import the picture. So let me do this really quick. Insert a picture. Don't worry, I'll make it bigger. All right. Now you guys don't have to draw this out if you don't want to, but it's up to you. It says sketch the general shape of each function. Okay? One thing you guys need to pay attention to, you guys remember where to find the y-intercept? Anybody remember? What's the y-intercept to this problem? The 1, right? This is my y-intercept. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at my pictures and kind of say, well, which one looks like it's passing 1? And I know you're saying, well, they don't have any numbers. But does A, look at A and C. Which one looks like it's passing 1? Between A and C. I mean, there's a, whoops. There's a dot right here. There's a dot right there. Okay, let me look at B. This one's way up here. This one's way up here. Would you say that B and D compared to A and C, so look at those four. Would you say that B and D are crossing at 1 compared to the other ones? No, those are too high, right? So I would be like, yeah, that doesn't make sense. I don't like those. So your y-intercept is your first clue, okay? So that you know which ones to pick. So now I'm only dealing with A and C. Now let me zoom back out again. I'm going to look at how many turns maximum, okay? And I also want to look at my end behavior. So let's talk about end behavior first. What's the degree on this? 5, right? Degree is 5. Sorry about that. So that means it's odd. And my A is what? Positive or negative? It's a positive 1. So what's the behavior supposed to be? Bottom left to top right, or top left to bottom right? Which one is it? Look at your list. If it's odd and A is positive, what does it do? Falls to the left, rises to the right. Which one looks like it's falling to the left and rising to the right? A. And that's it. You don't have to sketch anything, but you do have to know how to identify the graph. Okay? The last thing would be to check the maximum number of turns. How many turns should it have? If you look at this number, the 5, it has a degree of 5, so how many turns is it supposed to have? 4, one less. Notice both of those have a total of 4 different turns, right? So you can see like this one goes up and down, that's 1 turn, down then up, that's 2 turns, up and then down, that's 3 turns, and down and up, that's 4 turns. So it does have 4 turns. The other one does 4 turns as well. That's why I don't do turns immediately. I do that at the end if I have to. Usually, this is the key. Okay? So your y-intercept, and then do your end behavior. So let's look at one more. So this was number 16 from your homework. Number 17 from your homework. Let me insert it really quick. And then we're done after this. Let me guess, I put it behind it. I'm going to put it in a very weird place. So let me make this thing bigger. All right. So this is actually number 17 on your homework. Okay. And it says sketch the general shape of the function. Well, first, what am I supposed to look at right away? My intercept, okay? Look at my intercept, plus 4. I'm going to go put dots where the intercept is passing. I'm just kind of looking at those. Okay, let me zoom in just a bit. And this one's actually pretty easy. Which one looks like it has an intercept at a positive 4 for the y-intercept? B. So you're pretty much done, okay? You don't have to do anything else. Because D has an intercept that's negative. C seems to have the intercept that's 0. A seems to have a negative intercept. B is the only one that has the intercept up high. So that makes sense. It's going to be B. But just to double check, is my degree even or odd? Or my degree is this number right here. It's even. And is A positive or negative? Negative. So is it supposed to be going up, up, or down, down? Down, down. And look at that picture, right? Down to the left, down to the right. Okay, so it is going to be B. So your homework, guys, is all of this stuff. Okay?